Welcome, welcome, welcome to the village. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, come on in. Be sure to share, share, share. We are live. Welcome to the village. Happy Tuesday. Listen, guys, we are going to talk about what innovation. That is our focus for this week. How to be innovative, especially during this time, guys. We want to make sure that we're thinking outside of the box. So how are you being innovative? And what does innovation mean to you? All right, so teachers, I want to hear from you. Please join our discussion. How are you being innovative? I want to know, guys, listen, this pandemic was a perfect time for us to think outside of the box. This opportunity, to do hybrid and distance learning, it forced us to do things differently. And when we go back next year or whenever we go back to normal school, we don't want to just do the same old, same old. We want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students. And we have to do whatever it takes to do that, to engage our students, to engage our families and our parents and our community. So if you have to stand on the, on your head or whatever, do cartwheels, whatever it takes, you need to do it to make sure that our students are learning. So that's what we're talking about today. How are you being innovative? So what is innovation and what is it not? Now, I have a special guest with me today who's going to help us talk about innovation. So Mr. Towson, welcome to the village.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roz. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited.
Yes. So again, Mr. Towson, I've been teaching for over 20 years, and this is something that I need help with because, again, we want to make sure that we're not doing the same old, same old. So again, guys, welcome to the village. Welcome to our discussion today about innovation, and we want to hear from you. So join our discussion today. How are you being innovative, and what does it mean to you? All right, so I am Dr. Roz, and I am the CEO and founder of the Village Leadership Group, LLC. And we are a professional learning community of teachers and educators coming together to make sure that we are empowered and encouraged to do what it takes for our students. And today we have Mr. Towson here to tell us about being innovative. Now, I'm going to share some tips with you guys as well, but I want to hear from you guys, so make sure that you're sharing some ideas on how we can think outside of the box. We can't do what we used to do, back in the day, get the chalkboard and just, lecture and just do the same old. We have to push the envelope and think outside of the box, get out of our own comfort zones to do whatever it needs to be done to meet the needs of our students. So again, guys, welcome to the village. I want to hear from teachers, school leaders, even parents. If you have some ideas on how we can increase student engagement, how we can increase student achievement, please share. All right, that's what it's all about. All right, so Mr. Towson, introduce yourself to the village, please.
So as you mentioned, I am Clement Townsend. I took an unusual path into education. So my parents were both educators. My mother was a teacher and my father was an administrator, but I didn't necessarily want to follow in their footsteps. I wanted to do sports. I meet so many youth across the country, they want to be a professional athlete, but I didn't get the height, Dr. Roz. I wasn't tall enough to be an NBA player. So being as though my parents were educators, they said, what is your plan? That's what a lot of us tell the young people. What is your plan for life? Since I couldn't play sports, I felt like, well, maybe I can be on television and be around sports. I see these people who are talking to athletes. They're going to games. They're getting paid to do it. I said, that's cool. The only thing I knew was that people on television major in communications. So I just took the next step. My parents said, hey, you're going to college. I majored in communications. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia. Straight out of that, I went on television, my first job in San Angelo, Texas. Now, I don't know if anybody has ever heard of that place, but that's a big difference from Chicago to Philadelphia to San Angelo, Texas. I always wanted to get back home to Chicago for my parents to see me on television. So I went from San Angelo, Texas to Mobile, Alabama. In Mobile, I covered the Super Bowl, NBA All-Star game, college football, national championships, had some real cool experiences, but I met a lot of youth that wanted to do what I was doing. That always stuck with me. How can I be on television? How can I create? So I still kept my goal in mind while I thought about these young people. So I went from Mobile to Lynchburg, Virginia. And then finally I got a call to Chicago. It was like a dream come true for me. I had been in the media business for 14 years. And unfortunately, I guess maybe a couple of months before I got the call in Chicago, my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
She went through some procedures and things of that nature. I got the job in Chicago. I started in Chicago. And the week that I started, my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer. So that was a tough time in my life. Certainly, we all have challenges. We all have to persevere. So my dad saw me achieve my dream, but my mom never got a chance to see it. 3 years after I was on television in Chicago, they had layoffs. So another fork in the road, another setback. I had been in the media business for 17 years. I had always been employed, and then I got laid off. So at that time, I had a decision to make. And I always remembered those young people who wanted to learn more about media. They wanted to do what I was doing. And I saw a gap in the educational system that I felt like there was no bridge between media and education. And I felt like my expertise, you know, what I learned in the 17 years, I felt like there was a space where I can help educators really try to meet students where they are. So whereas though when I was a teenager, I never really wanted to follow in the footsteps of my parents, I guess, Dr. Roz, it was always in me because I came back. Maybe I took a long winding road, and it's not the same in the classroom every day, but still trying to impact the next generation through education.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Awesome story and journey. You know, life is a journey. You know, this is a journey, and I'm glad that you found your way to education. So again, welcome guys. Those of you who are just joining us, welcome. Please join our discussion. We're talking about being innovative. During this time, during the pandemic, we were pretty much forced to think outside of the box in order to meet the needs of our students, and making sure they had every tool and resource available to them going through this process. And now that we're transitioning back to school and thinking about next school year in the future, we want to make sure that we continue this trend of being innovative and thinking outside of the box and doing things a little different. And again, it's all about student engagement. It's all about student achievement. So what by any means necessary, we want to make sure that our scholars are prepared for their future. So that's what Mr. Towson was just talking about, where the students and the, you know, we're looking up to him saying, hey, I want to do that. And we as teachers need to make sure that we're helping our students reach their goals and make sure that they are that they have the skills and abilities to do that. So if there's a special career or goal or dream that they have, we have to give them the tools in order to get there. So Mr. Towson, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. So I want to hear from you, Mr. Towson, like when we think about innovation, what does that look like? Like, okay, so what, and I'm a teacher, help me, help me get outside of my comfort zone. What does that look like? What does that mean? I put a computer in front of a student. Am I being innovative?
So for me, it really means letting the student participate in the learning process, in the educational process. So when I was in grade school some 30 years ago, a long time ago, you know, it was pretty much, you know, you might write papers and turn in a paper, or if there was some type of project, you might go to the store with your parents, right, and buy a poster board and maybe glue some pictures. You know what I mean?
Do that all the time. Yeah.
Right. You glue some pictures on a poster board. Maybe you write something on it and turn that in. So that was kind of the extent of creativity and students participating. But now, specifically, my area is video. But it could be in other ways, certainly with Google slides and presentations and some of these other internet websites and things of that nature, but making sure that the student is going to the next level, making sure they're getting a deeper learning experience with them participating in the learning process. So to me, innovation is, kind of getting student feedback in terms of maybe how can we do this lesson differently, and then letting the student show their understanding in a different way. So now I have a thing that I say students will remember projects over papers.
Yes.
You just turn in a paper, but if you actually have me creating a project, whether that's through video or some other means where I'm taking things from the internet and actually maybe submitting a project online that I worked on, that I've kind of invested some more time in, I think students will remember what they learned. They'll retain that information more. I believe they'll be more invested. And again, I'm always about meeting students where they are. I just think that will boost that engagement piece because we're online. And I just think that's super important.
Awesome. Now, when you talk about getting the students involved, the lead teacher in me and the instructional coach in me immediately start thinking about framework for teaching, for FFT domains. A lot of the teachers in the area, you guys are being evaluated on FFT. That's how we become distinguished educators, if we're getting our students involved. So a lot of people say, well, I was evaluated and I had an observation and the principal said that I was basic or unset or proficient. How do I get to the distinguished level? It's all about getting the students involved and letting the students kind of decide what they want to learn and how they learn as well. So I love that. So this is good tips. So all the teachers out there, if you're stuck at unset or proficient or basic, take note, get your students involved. That's a way for them to be more engaged and take ownership of their learning. So I love that, Mr. Townsend. Now, what is innovation not? Like, what's the complete opposite? Like, what are the things that I see teachers do, make the mistake of, like I said, they have a computer and they think, oh, well, I gave them technology, I'm being innovative. Or, I changed up my lesson so that the students would ask a question and then they were able to work in groups to solve it, or whatever. That's still not being innovative. So what are some things that you hear when you're working with teachers, some misconceptions or maybe some challenges for them to being innovative?
So certainly just taking what a student does in the regular classroom and moving that online, certainly that's not innovative. And even breakout rooms are okay. And it can help with small groups and smaller interaction. But that's again what you would do in the classroom. We'll take 3 people over here while the rest of the people continue doing the assignment and things of that nature. So that's just using technology kind of in a different way, but it's not necessarily being innovative. Certainly, when you talk about some of the challenges, Dr. Roz, it's just the idea of technology evolves so fast. Mm-hmm. And really just having the time to feel confident and proficient with it. I think that's one of the main challenges. Depending on when a teacher got their degree, they may have never learned that sort of thing, when they got their degree, I guess in elementary education or, when they did their studies. So now really taking the time to step out of the comfort zone, I think that's one of the challenges. How do I have time? Because I have to still, do assignments and connect with my students on an emotional level because of everything that's going on. And maybe I need to contact parents. I might be observed. I have to make sure that I'm in good graces with my principal. I might be active with my family. So just making sure that they have the time, can be a huge hurdle in terms of trying to be innovative. So I think teachers have to be intentional about that sort of thing, maybe lean on their PLN and see what are some of the things that maybe people in their network are doing. So to cut the learning curve so they won't have to spend hours and hours, because it is important to do things differently, but we understand it's still a pandemic and it could be a mental strain to try to figure out and learn all these different things. So I understand some of the external things that could keep a teacher in their comfort zone.
Definitely. Wonderful. Love that tip. So when you think about that, one of the things that I tell the teachers that I work with is learn one or two things well.
Yeah.
Like get that underneath your belt and really, dig deep into that area. Get all of the resources, all of the tricks and skills with that one tool and learn it well. And don't try to get 50 things because then you're just all over the place and you're going to confuse yourself and the students and your parents. So when you're being innovative, keep it simple. Keep it simple. I can think of some of the times where I kind of mix things up in the class when I taught elementary. I decided that we're going to have our routine was going to be set up like a college, where the students had like a college schedule, and we had centers all around the classroom. So it was extravagant, but I still kept it simple and organized so that even my fourth graders and fifth graders understood it. And the parents would come and, talk to me like, well, I don't know what you're doing, but my child is so excited about their Tuesday and Thursday class, because they had the schedule like a college. So they were more engaged and they could talk about which classes they wanted to change. And so it was a whole thing. But again, I kept it simple and organized. So when you're thinking about being innovative, don't try to do too much at once and try to make sure that you are being intentional about using it and, and making the change, but keeping it simple for your students as well.
Yeah, because let me add on to that. It can be overwhelming. There are a lot of different things out there, and you can see maybe a lot of educators doing different things, but that might not necessarily be the thing that works for you or something that you can actually grasp at that particular time. So to your point, don't necessarily get yourself overwhelmed because that's not necessarily a good recipe for success, for sure.
Definitely. So, Mr. Towson, I have a few things on my list that I want to share, and then we're going to get into your strategies as well. So, in order to have an innovative environment, there's a few tips that I have for you. This is some things that you want to consider. Number one, freedom. You have to have the freedom and give yourself grace to think outside of the box and to take risks. So that's something that you want to consider. So as teachers, sometimes we get stuck and we, put ourselves in prison to the curriculum or the way things have to be. But you have to give yourself freedom, give yourself grace to kind of, step out there, take risks to try something new. And then you already mentioned my second thing, which was time. You have to have time to do the research. You have to have time to collaborate with your colleagues and, like you said, your network of professionals who can help you. In the village, we are a PLC, so you need time to do that as well. And then also, you have to have number three, a collaborative culture. A collaborative culture, because again, you want to make sure that you're in a school environment where you guys can lean on each other and also share great ideas. And number four is funding, because unfortunately, some things cost money. There's some ideas that are free that you can just change a few things and it's free. But if there's a different intervention or a different program that you want to use, sometimes you're going to have to get some money and some funding for that. And, that's where you lean on your administrators or even some grants and different things that you can do to get funding for that innovative idea. But just because something may cost money, don't let that stop you for, trying different things and, thinking outside the box. And then lastly, you have to have a culture or school community where it's okay to take risks. That it's okay to try something new. It may not work. Like you said, Mr. Townsend, it can't be overwhelming. It can't be something that doesn't meet the needs of your students. So some things just doesn't fit for your students or for your school community. So if it's okay for your school community, you have to have that openness to take risk, and that is something that is definitely needed. So, Mr. Townsend, I want you to give you a chance to share your responses to some of those things that I mentioned.
Absolutely. I think having thick skin might play into it a little bit. because sometimes if you're a teacher that's innovative, maybe some of your colleagues might not necessarily look upon that in terms of being super accepting. You know,
Right.
you mentioned a collaborative environment, but let's be honest, you know, some teachers just want to kind of play it safe and do things the way they've always done. So that's why I say thick skin, because if you're trying to do something with video, or you mentioned, you know, some different things in terms of making it like a college schedule, if you're really trying to mix things up and really trying to have the students excited and participate, you know, some people might look at what is Dr. Roz doing? Who does Dr. Roz think she is? You know, trying all these different things. Dr. Roz is going to make me look bad, because
Right.
now when the principal sees some of the success that Dr. Roz is having, the principal is going to expect me to do that sort of thing. So again, to my original point, it might take some thick skin, because all, you know, the teachers in the building or the colleagues might not necessarily, you know, be super acceptive or accepting. The one thing that you mentioned about funding that is super important, certainly my expertise is video and getting teachers to have their students create video in the everyday classroom during everyday instruction. And I know we'll get into this a little bit more, but one of the things about where we are right now is, back in the day, you probably needed to have a huge budget in terms of a big camera.
Mm-hmm.
Editing would cost a whole lot. You might need a huge studio with lights and things of that nature. But because the way that technology has evolved, you don't need a huge budget for students to start creating videos, because the websites now, a lot of students already have a phone. So certainly that's a recording device in and of itself. You know, depending on what grade level that you're working with, some of these students are already using iMovie. So whereas in days past or in times past, it was a huge budget issue or a huge expense to implement or bring media into a school or bring video into a school and into the classroom, because of technology, it doesn't cost as much now. Certainly, what I teach and the things that I do is not free. I'm not going to sit here and say it's free, but it might not cost as much as educators and administrators think, because of how technology has evolved to kind of bring the price down.
Awesome, awesome. So you already pretty much shared some of the things that you do. So I want to give you the floor to tell us a little bit more about the different strategies that you have to increase student engagement and to increase student achievement.
So for me, I brought it up before, it's about meeting students where they are. And the one thing, if you work with students or if you have children, you know that students like videos. Right now, we're on a couple different platforms, whether it's YouTube or a Facebook Live. I work with different organizations and schools all the time. And when I ask students, how often do they watch YouTube? Dr. Roz, what do you think students reply when I ask them how often they watch YouTube?
All the time.
Every single day.
Exactly.
Every single day. So whether it's Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, students are watching videos every day. As adults, most of the time, we're watching videos every day. I often say it's only a matter of time before we're watching video on our watch. Because when you think of all the stuff that the Apple Watch can do, it's only a matter of time before you can watch video on the watch. So now, how do we take where students are watching videos and start to get students to create videos as an additional way to show understanding of what they're learning? So I know, you've taught science in the past. So if it's a lesson on the environment, if it's a lesson on like climate change or molecules, in times past, I would imagine, students are writing things using pen and paper. But now, how do they take the same research for one of those topics? And then now, how do they voice it on the computer? And then now, how do they add some visuals with it? Because now that's connecting what they're learning with science, climate change, molecules with the real world. Like, oh, I watch videos. Oh, you want me to make a video? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I can make a video. But within that, they're still learning as well, because there's still some research that has to be done. Educators can still assess that sort of thing. And with me having a journalism background, I'm always about narration. So what is their pacing like as they're delivering this information? What is their tone like as they deliver this information? What is their articulation in terms of how they speak as they deliver this information? And that's cross-curricular. I mean, I just mentioned science. Certainly, if we go to English and we're talking about Hamlet, or, if you have students doing book reviews, if we go to history and we're talking about landmark laws that happen or landmark cases, since we're talking about education, if they're doing a teacher's doing a unit on Brown versus Board of Education, how can students now have the option to do a video to show their understanding of Brown versus Board of Education? And now we're adding in different modalities, Dr. Roz, because now we have this visual element where they're taking pictures or they're taking video. I mean, this is really getting them engaging. You can add music if you want to. So you're telling the student, we could talk about Brown versus Board of Education, and I can add some music, underneath, and I can add some pictures and video, still can be assessed, but it's just giving students different options. It is just taking the computer and some of the things that we have and some of the things that students are already using, and now, just deepening that learning experience. I believe that they remember more. And again, this can be English, it could be history, it could be math, just in terms of doing an online whiteboard where students are actually showing their work through an online whiteboard, because it can be difficult in math, especially online or in a remote setting, to actually see what a student is doing. What's the steps that they took to figure out that equation? Yeah, we can send them to a website and they figure out problems, but do we know where they went wrong? So an online whiteboard, again, video. So now I can see what they actually did and they can make that into a video as well. So for me, it's just so timely. I think it's so important. And then certainly it puts in a technology piece as well, that I could just go all day talking about how that's 21st century skills. But I hope that makes sense in terms of those examples.
It definitely makes sense. And I love you giving students choice.
Yes.
Where they can decide on how, like you said, how they show that they're understanding that skill or that standard. And also how they can be creative with it. If they like to sing, maybe they can sing a song about it, or rap, or do whatever, create a dance, who knows? So, there's no limitation to how they can show their understanding and what they're learning. So I love that. And you mentioned about, using resources and tools that we already have. Like you said, we have cell phones. So all of the students from elementary all the way up, they have cell phones, and they know how to do a video. And you talked about how about tone and everything else. So it's not just, the students taking a video and saying, oh, I did a video, I recorded myself do this math problem, so I submitted it. But it's a little bit more. And when you think about mathematical practices, the students have to be able to explain their thinking and also, critique the work of others and the thinking of others. So we want to, embed those communication skills as well. So I love that, what you're saying. So tell me more, how can teachers get started? Like, I want to do this tomorrow. What can I do tomorrow?
So, certainly what I mentioned could be intimidating because there is an editing component to it. If we're talking about videos, there has to be some editing. So I always say, for many teachers, especially some that might not be tech savvy, they might be a little hesitant, just dip your toe in the water. So I'm working with some educators and they talk about the KWL chart. Again, I haven't been in education, for 20 years, but I think many teachers already know about what I know, what I want to know, and what I learned. So that's a way to start with a student doing a simple video just in place of that. Instead of just having them write down what they know, what they want to know, what they learn, have them do a video. So now you really get to hear from every single student. And then again, we give the student a taste of what it's like to present and talk and articulate. And I keep going back to that because communication skills are just so important. Public speaking skills are so important. There are still some adults who struggle with public speaking. So when I talk to some college students and educators, some colleges are starting to have students do video essays to apply for college. So the more we can get students familiar with just doing a video about some small things, what I know, what I want to know, what I learned, that just prepares them for what they might encounter. I've seen articles and things written about video resumes. So again, just trying something small. A video resume could just be, an adult going on camera talking about their experience. So this is just a way. So whereas if a child, when they're a senior, this won't be unfamiliar to them, because they can say, you know what, in 5th grade, Dr. Roz had me doing what I know, what I want to know, what I learned. And they just submit that. It's no editing involved with that. Some of the things I was talking about with doing a video on climate change, or maybe doing a video on a book or a landmark case, some editing would be involved with that, and pictures and music. But this is simply hit record on your laptop, upload it to like a Google Drive and Google Classroom, and let the teacher check it out. So I think that's a simple strategy that should not be intimidating. It wouldn't require editing, but it gives the students practice with video and gives them, as we talked about before, just an additional way to turn in, additional way to share some where they are in terms of the units.
Awesome. So one of the things that's interesting is that in my school district and many school districts across the nation, we use Gmail. And so the students have Gmail accounts as well. And they also have a YouTube channel. Oh, wow. So in my school district, I taught in my school, I showed my students that they also have a YouTube channel and made sure that they keep it private. And so when I taught robotics, I had my students take videos of their robots and upload it to their YouTube channel, and then keep like a diary of what they learned throughout the year. But it was a combination of videos and then also uploads with their website. They also created a website where they had to upload like little articles and different reflections of what they learned. So that was just my entry level way of being innovative, getting the students more engaged, and they had choice on what videos to upload and what articles to and reflections they wanted to record in their journal, their website. So thank you for sharing that. So Mr. Towson, if a teacher or a school district call you, like, what is that relationship like? What do you do for our school? If I call you and say, we need to get Mr. Towson in our school, what can we expect? So
prior to the pandemic, I was going into schools prior to COVID-19. And then certainly when COVID happened, a lot of people, everybody pretty much had to shift what they were doing. So I took everything online. And prior to the pandemic, the thing that I noticed was I had a lot of schools that had interest, but I could only be in one place at one time. So what that currently looks like is an online program, whereas I can help teachers in Florida or Virginia or here in Chicago, and it not necessarily, I wouldn't be as limited, or I can serve more teachers. I can help more teachers. So what that would look like is I already have the video set up to say, hey, if you're doing some ELA, whatever your unit is, this could be a potential way how you could have students submit videos that will get them engaged and start to get going. Here's what you would need to do. Here's the steps, so to speak. Here are the steps to try to help students, to try to help teachers shorten that learning curve. What I do, certainly I'm an expert in it, and some teachers could try to piece things together, Dr. Roz. I talk to a lot of educators and they scour the internet and try to piece things together, but this shortens the learning curve. It's all right there for you. So you don't have to figure out, okay, how would the student do the research? How would they write this? What if they want to do interviews? What would that look like? And then they have to edit and put it all together. That's a lot to ask, Dr. Roz, for a teacher to do that in this environment with their obligations that they have going on, school obligations, family obligations, maybe church obligations. That's a lot. So just like Instacart, if you use Instacart or whatever, maybe food service you might use, Instacart makes things so much easier because, you're able to put your order in for your groceries and it saves you time, Dr. Roz. The same thing with like
that.
Huh?
I said, we like that.
We like that. So I want to help teachers be innovative. and meet students where they are, but I also want to save them time too. So that's what it would look like. It's a resource, an online program that really gives teachers the tools that they need to now put this into practice, to now add this media piece into the everyday curriculum. I've spoken with some educators that say things relative to, if they have some special education students who might not necessarily be the best in terms of writing and things of that nature, but if they can, submit videos or display their learning in a different way, that might be conducive for those students. So it really helps those students as well in that regard. So no, it looks like this online program that has been getting some amazing feedback that saves teachers time, and again, gives their students additional ways to display their understanding.
Love it. Love it. So how can people reach out to you and connect with you?
So the website is www.videojournalismpro.com. That's www.videojournalismpro.com. When they go there, they'll find a free resource, because I'm all about trying to provide value, and it gives some more tools how they can start getting their students to create better video content and create a better life. Because I truly believe when students know how to make videos, it really can help them in life. It's not just about wanting to be in the media profession, but these are transferable skills, Dr. Roz. We talk about research, we talk about speaking, you mentioned creativity, critical thinking is there. I mean, we got the 4 C's here. You add in collaboration. So also they could find me on Facebook, C Townsend TV, Instagram, C Townsend TV as well. I would love to chat with educators, because Dr. Roz, you mentioned, I guess you're already innovative. You talked about the robotics and you talked about the YouTube and things of that nature. But far too often, there are a lot of schools where students aren't getting any type of media training, any type of video creation training. And some people say, well, students are going to do this on their own. Well, not necessarily. And if they do it on their own, they're probably going to do it the same way that their peers do it. Videos in terms of prank videos.
Right, just for fun.
Just for fun. Dance videos. But you're talking about robotics videos. Like, I say media is not just entertainment, Dr. Roz. It's also educational. So now how can we start to get them to create videos that inform, that inspire, that impact? I mean, that's so important.
So important, so important. So thank you again, Mr. Towson, for joining the village and sharing those wonderful strategies with the village. I am going to make sure that I, kind of step it up a little bit and be more intentional about how I use technology and how I use videos with instruction. So thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. You will come back, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me add one thing too.
Yes.
When it comes to careers, if a student wants to be in cosmetology and have a hair business or a hairstylist, it helps to be able to create videos to show what they can do with their hair. A lot of students might want to own a business, maybe own a restaurant. It helps to create videos to show the type of food that you have. If somebody wants to be in real estate, if you're an agent, it helps to create videos to show your listings. Or if you're a flipper, it helps to create videos to show your rehabs. So as I mentioned, creativity and critical thinking, really whatever area, career field that a student or a young person wants to be in, it just helps to have this working knowledge, finance, fashion, real estate, restaurants. I mean, it crosses so many different areas. That's why I believe if students don't learn this in school, Dr. Roz, where will they learn it? And in this 21st century, I know that the village wants to see students thrive in this 21st century, and this is a big part of that.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Awesome. So guys, again, follow Mr. Towson on Facebook, LinkedIn. He's on all the social media platforms. You can reach out to him if you want more information about his strategies on how to intentionally use journalism and videos in the classroom. Thank you so much again, Mr. Towson. See you next time.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So village, I hope you guys took great notes. And those were some awesome tips and strategies. So listen, guys, again, our focus for this week is innovation. We have to get outside of our comfort zone and, think about different resources, different strategies to make sure that our students are engaged and make sure that we are preparing our students for their future careers as well. So get your students involved. Ask them, what are some future careers or ideas that they have, and see how we can incorporate some resources or tools to help them get there. All right, we have to kind of, reach outside and do something different, especially during this time where we're dealing with the pandemic. So continue to follow the village as we talk about how to be innovative, and we want to hear from you. What are some ways that you're thinking outside the box and being innovative? Please share your ideas as well. Again, continue to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Village LG. Again, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Village LG, and be sure to share this video and some of our other videos with other educators, because we want you guys to join the village. We are a professional learning community, and we are growing and learning together, because teacher leadership is a mindset, not a position. So let's work together. Have a great rest of your week. See you next time.